Today on the Relationship Revival Show, I'm joined by Coach Ken Canion. Ken is a personal development and relationship coach who has helped transform the lives of countless men, women, and couples. Ken believes that anyone can create a happy, healthy, and authentic relationship without losing themselves in the process. You're listening to the Relationship Revival Podcast with John DeBach, also known as Mr. Spirituality. That's me. I'm your host, giving you insights and guidance from over 10 years in the field of this amazing journey we call romance. On this show, I go over everything you need to know about how to get into a relationship, how to get the most out of a relationship, and sometimes even how to gracefully end a relationship without pulling your hair out and going crazy. And occasionally, I'm even joined by new and old friends who are also relationship experts to bring you guidance and wisdom with new perspectives. Thanks for stopping by. Ken, I'm so excited to have you on the Relationship Revival Show. I've become a recent but very avid fan of your social media feeds. You put out a lot of great content. You're helping a lot of people. And I was excited that you agreed to be on the show, just kind of to set the stage. It was, to me, it's a pleasure. You seem like one of those guys that has an unlimited source of knowledge that will never really run out in this field.
Wow. First of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Do your friends call you doctor? They call you John? They call
John's
you
fine. Yeah. John's the easiest way to go about it.
The reason I say that is because we're going to be friends.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but first off, I want to say thank you for having me. I like to think that my wife says that I am just a cesspool of useless knowledge. So, and then I asked her, I said, well, what about the useful knowledge? So to answer your question, I'm always learning, researching, understanding, looking for new methodologies to help people grow and transform their lives. So yes, thank you so much for having me.
Why don't you share, you've been a coach in kind of the personal development space
Yes.
for well over a decade.
Yes.
But you switched over to focusing on relationships a little bit more recently. Walk me through how did that happen and what made you kind of make that shift and that decision?
So I've been coaching for roughly 14 to 15 years. But during that time when I was coaching, I was traveling, I was doing a lot of, corporate stuff. And I had just gotten married 6 years prior, and my marriage was just the worst. I can't even put it it was just the worst. We couldn't communicate with each other. She couldn't stand me. I couldn't stand her. Everything she said was misconstrued. Everything I said was misconstrued. And then we just, nobody really said the divorce word, but we knew that we were headed that way because we just couldn't, it was just unsustainable. And I remember one day we were arguing really bad. I mean, I've never put my hands on my wife ever. But the words that I said that day was probably more harmful than anything I could have done physically. And her words were quite bad too. But I remember, I'll never forget it. On that day, she said, "Can we go for a ride?" Now you think about it, in the midst of all of this, can we go for a ride? I didn't want to ride with her anywhere. I was like, for what? She was like, just can we get out of the house? I asked her later why she said that. She said she felt like our home had become so toxic. So we get in the car, not knowing where we're going. We're driving. I don't know. You're a married guy. You understand sometimes when someone's mad at you, she's looking out her window. I'm looking out my window, and we're not talking. But we had one thing in common. She was hungry and I was hungry. And she said, she asked me, "Are you hungry?" And I was like, "Yeah." But here's the kicker though. I only had $7. I had just gotten off a reality show. And this reality show called The Biggest Loser, I'd lost well over 100 pounds. I had gotten my health back. And I wasn't eating fast food. But at that time, matter of fact, I wasn't working much. I had turned away all my clients to focus on my health. Well, so I only had $7. So we rolled through the drive-through. It just so happens, John, that they had 2 meal deals, like a junior double cheeseburger. And I wasn't even eating burgers at the time. But at that time, I didn't really care because we were arguing. It was $2.99 a piece. Came up to six and some change. As I'm driving through the drive-through, she says, pull in a parking space. And I said, for what? She said, because I want to figure out what's wrong with us. So I reluctantly did it. Um, we we sat down. She turned to me. I'll never forget it. And she said these words. She said, I did not get married to get divorced. We're going to sit here till we figure out what's wrong with us. And I'm like, yeah, right. 2 hours and 42 minutes later, I had an epiphany. I learned more about her in those 2 hours than I had the previous 6 years. We came up with a conflict resolution system, a real system that not only saved our marriage, it saved hundreds of marriages that I've helped. 292, 298, sorry, to be exact. You wonder why I keep up with that number? Because that's the number that matters, not how many. I got over 1 million followers, but those don't matter. The 298 is what matters. And so when we did that, I realized I had a greater purpose to help other people because everybody's just wanting to be right. Everybody's wanting and so my thing is let's help them fix it. And so after that, I was personal development, coaching, leadership, other stuff. But about 8 to 10 years, I decided, you know what, I want to focus just on relationships. I want to focus just on people, whether it's singles, couples, divorce, whatever. I want to help people transform their lives, and that has been my mission ever since. And that's how we got there.
It's amazing. One of the things that it seems like you specialize in that I don't really touch much, and we don't talk about on this show enough, is finding love and really kind of what you have to do mentally, emotionally, what kind of work you have to do otherwise to kind of welcome in that kind of blessing into your life. So what is your approach? Let's say let's kind of give people a taste of working with Coach Ken, right? Let's say you're, I don't know, let's pick a typical client for you. Is it, age range, male, female? How would you approach working with them?
Well, my typical client is 47 years old. She has 1.5 children. She makes on average $78,000 a year. So I know her because she is the person, the woman who's super successful in what she does, but she can't figure it out in her love life. Either she's divorced, she's dating the wrong people. So the first thing that I do when you come in, I always start with this. I always say, relationships wouldn't be so hard if we didn't expect them to be so easy. So I start them with that statement.
Wait, hold on. Let's repeat that again. That's a great little phrase there. Relationships wouldn't be so hard if we didn't expect
them to be so easy.
That's great. I love that.
And so I start from that premise, and then I do an assessment of where they are. So we go back to the relationships. I do a chronological. This is crazy. When they're in a discovery session with me, I go back to every relationship they've had prior.
Oh, wow.
And so I do it in a way that I'm looking for tendencies. And then I finally get back to their childhood. And so it becomes progressively more intense as we're moving through this session. But what I'm also doing by going back, though, John, is I am creating visual imagery in their own mind. Because maybe some of the things they hadn't thought about. So when I hear something, I always tell them, you don't know where I'm going. I know where I'm going, so don't try to figure it out. Don't try to anticipate the answers that I want. Don't worry about any of that. Because just tell me what I'm asking you. And then once we get back, all of a sudden, a lot of things in the initial session become clear. They become acutely aware of, wow, this is what's happening to me. And so then when I wrap it up in a bow, I say, okay, because a lot of them come to me and say, why do I keep doing blank? Okay. And then I said, there's always a cause and effect. Okay. And so what we do, my endeavor is to find out the cause. And so as we're doing that, then I'm like, there it is. There's a part of it right there. There's a part of it right there. This is causing this. This is causing this. And so at the end of that one session, I tell them some things that they probably have never heard. I explain to them not only what they're doing, but why they're doing it. And so that's how we start our relationship. The relationship starts from true honesty, but it also starts with, I want you to win. I'm a coach. Sometimes I'm going to hold your hand. Sometimes I'm going to nudge you. And sometimes I'm going to kick you out the door. And so depending on the person and the personality, as I'm getting to know the person, I have to understand who you are before I can coach you. Because if I don't know who you are, I can't coach you effectively. And so that's how it starts working. And then I always tell them, you don't have to trust me. I said, but trust the process,
Mm-hmm.
because the process works. Coach Ken is fallible. He makes mistakes. I said, but the process works, and success leaves clues. There are
Mm-hmm.
other people who have gone through the process, who doubted it at first. I always tell them this. I tell them this, John. You don't have to believe. See, when I ask this question, people think I'm doing riddles and stuff. I'm just seeing where they are. I always say, which comes first? It's desire, belief, or willingness to do the work. Which comes first? People always say, 70% of the people say belief.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, what if you have no basis to believe? What if you grew up in a toxic environment? What if you've never seen what a great relationship looks like? How do I believe? And then I tell them, here's what comes first. Desire. Make your intention known. I said, because if you have a big enough why, the how becomes irrelevant. And so let's start with your why. Okay. Then I say willingness to do the work, because there are going to be some things I'm going to ask you to do that don't make sense. Okay. But what I'm doing is reconditioning your subconscious mind. And then the last thing, belief comes as a result of you doing the work, coupled with desire. It's amazing how that works.
I think that's such a good point, especially because when you look at what there's two things I always look at to see if the relationship is already kind of out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And it's totally connected to what you're talking about. So I always look for exhaustion or apathy, right? When someone stops caring,
Yes.
right? When the desire's not there, relationships pretty much down the, I mean, like look, hate you can work with, right?
Yes.
Hate
True.
you can work with. When someone stops giving a crap, you're toast, like, and so on the opposite at the start of a relationship, right? Make them want it, make them want it hard enough. And then the why, you're right. The why and the how will come from there. And it's a brilliant approach. And I think a big part of what most therapists don't do and what coaches do, which I think is great, and what I've kind of adopted in my own practice, is building that desire for
Yes.
that vision of what they want to build, because getting them that taste of it in their mind is what kind of fuels it.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing.
let's jump into kind of the problem areas. Once you get the beliefs, right?
Okay.
Since you have this 47-year-old woman and she's at a certain income bracket and she's doing
Sure.
well, what are some challenges you see? I mean, let's stick with women for a second. What do you feel like women don't get about men these days?
Okay, that's great. Number one, when we're talking about women and men, one of the biggest misconceptions is they think like me. They should think like me. Notice I didn't say they think like me, and rephrase it as though they should think like me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and when I tell them, I just finished a class, what she said, what he heard. And then I said,
Great title.
and I said, men and women view the world differently.
Yeah.
I said, let me explain it. I said, let me go all the way back to your childhood. Okay, when a little boy cries or something happens to him, what do we tell him? We say, suck it up. Don't cry. We say, suck it up. Don't worry about it. Don't tell anybody. And what we train little boys to do, unbeknownst to many of us, we train them to hold their feelings in. Mm-hmm. Not communicate, not tell the world, not know how to process my emotions. And so then I grow up to a 25, 30-year-old guy. And then the woman who's been told, process your emotions. What are you feeling? What is this? And so she looks at the man as he just doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to be in this relationship. And I said, what if he was conditioned not to speak, not to communicate, because communication on that level is seen as a weakness. And then I said that conditioning is prevalent in many men. I said, but if you don't know it, if you don't know how to deal with it, how to navigate that, you're going to just say, oh, he doesn't talk. And you're going to want to discard the relationship. That's just one thing. There are a multitude of things I help them understand about men. And once I help them, make them aware, make them conscious of men and women are different because they were designed differently. All right. They were programmed differently. They were conditioned differently. Now, I know there are cultural differences in other cultures. However, most of well, I do have international clients, but 80% of them are from the United States. And so when I began breaking down the difference, when I began helping them understand the nuances of how men and women view the world, and I'm not generalizing everyone, I'm just talking about in a way that, okay, the majority that I coach, here's how they view it. And so that's what I help them do. Once I give them that understanding, then we begin working on their beliefs because I have to deconstruct that. Because if you believe that the man is just not communicating, now for me to introduce a new thought that maybe, just maybe, he was conditioned that way, just maybe that's a part of his subconscious programming, then that requires you to begin thinking differently. And so that is how we interrupt a lot of their patterns, a lot of their thought processes, and recondition their subconscious minds.
How long does that process typically take? I mean, obviously it's different for every person, but if
Right.
you're breaking down belief systems, do you have like a format or like a typical process that, or is it so customized that it's hard to break it down?
No, I often say I don't like less than 90 days.
Hmm.
But I normally say it takes hold and root in 6 months. But don't let me say this. You can start the process much sooner. You
Sure.
begin to. It's kind of like working out in the gym, right?
Right.
I was 420 something pounds. Well,
Wow.
now I weigh 255, but I didn't get all of that off at the same time,
Right.
and so it was a process. But I did start losing weight. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got
You see
lost
the
to 20.
progress.
Yes,
You see the shifts, and that
yes,
motivates you to keep pushing.
exactly.
Brilliant. So when your clients are ready to go out and start dating and looking for their new partners,
Mhm.
is are there parts that are uncomfortable now that they have kind of like that new belief system, and how do you work with them through that like ickiness feeling where it's like this doesn't feel normal?
Well, it's not going to feel normal, and like I tell them, it's not going to feel normal. Because I did this thing. I said 10 reasons why dating over 40 is challenging, and one of the reasons is because people haven't practiced. They're not used to it. It's kind of like I hadn't played basketball in a while, and I go out
Hmm.
on the court. I used to play basketball a long time ago, and we used to play a pickup game. Well, if I go out and play a pickup game now, I'm going to look awkward. I am going to look, guys coming out like, we don't want him, if
Right.
I were to do that. And so it's only through practice. I often, because my philosophy of dating is much different than most people, but it's only through practice that I get better. It's only through practice and understanding that I know how to communicate with a man. It's only through practice and understanding that I know how to resolve conflict. And it's only through practice that I begin understanding how to express my needs. And so you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. And so if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, what happens? Nothing's going to change.
Right.
Nothing. And you know this because in therapy, a lot of times when you're dealing with couples, a lot of stuff is uncomfortable.
Yep.
But the uncomfortable things are the things that help you grow. And so I take that approach too, because and help them to realize that, okay, that when you accept the fact that I won't be great at it at first, that I'm getting better each time I do it, when you adopt that philosophy, it's going to work. It's going to work for you.
When someone is so out of practice, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you're dealing with people in their 40s. If they've
Mm-hmm.
been married, for example, I've been married a little over 13 years now. I know if I was going back in the dating pool, God forbid, uh, like contending with the apps and contending with all that stuff is like it would just be a whole new world for me. Is
Sure, it
that
would be.
part of that? Is that part of the process? A lot of
It
that with a lot of
is.
clients.
It is. And part of the process is what number 10 on my list of people, why people have problems, challenges dating over 40 is they're unwilling to change. See, think about it like this. Years ago, they had the horse and buggy until somebody introduced the car. Okay. And then they introduced another faster car, better car. And so then we used to have the rotary dial phones. I'm older than you. So, but now, then the touch tone phone.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden the pager. Then we had the big bag cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
Then we came into the portable flip phone. And now we have the smartphone. And see, what I tell people is this: you adjust in every area of your life. I get it. Some things are uncomfortable, but you've adjusted in every area of your life. You adjust to a new car when you get it. You adjust to a new phone. You figure out what apps need to go on it. You figure out how to use it. And now you cannot live without your phone. Okay. So my partner, one of the people I coach with, and she's a lady, and she's about to get married. She's a online dating guru, right? And we were talking one day, and she said, I had to change my mindset, to reprogram my mindset, because many people think they're crazy people online, and there are, but there are also some good people who want relationships. What we have to teach you is how to decipher them. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what we do.
That's great. Learning to weed it out,
Sure.
like a little like a sifting filter.
Yeah,
And
I've got a technique. Well, I would say a process, not a technique, that I developed that is so powerful that it works. It works. And so maybe we'll talk about it or something like that. But I'm just saying. So yeah, you have to be willing to change the way. And some people aren't willing to change. And
yeah,
and you know what I say? I say, well, people are motivated for two reasons: either toward pleasure or away from pain.
that's right.
Okay. At the end of the day, that's why we do what we do. I said, you have not associated enough pain with staying alone.
Yeah. Pain is a much stronger motivator than pleasure.
Yes, it is.
So yeah, that's smart that you kind of instead of focusing on the vision, it's like okay, let's think about what your life is like in your 80s and your 70s when you're
Sure.
alone. Yeah, that's a smart way to go about it. It would get me off my butt. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's all about getting leverage. People helping people get leverage on themselves.
Yeah.
And if we can help people get leverage on themselves, see, I often tell people it's not me getting leverage on you. It's me presenting a thought that you're willing to take hold of and get leverage on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you're working with someone and and it's going well and they're dating, and then new issues arise within the relationship. I'm sure that's part of the process as well. So,
Yes. Yes.
so I'll give you an example. So I had someone who reached out on a Facebook video that I posted where she was I came up with the 5 different ways people express affection, kind of based on the love languages, a little bit updated, and she said, I've told my man the way I want to be loved, but he just doesn't do anything. What would your approach be? Now she's not a client, so I don't know any more details than that. And so there's only so much you
Oh,
can extract from a comment, but I thought it was a kind of a fun question. Like, okay, you've been told exactly what to do and you won't do it. I can think of a couple reasons why, but I'm curious how you would approach it.
so I'll answer that question like I always do many times with the people that I work with. I said, my 7-year-old grandson came over to the house the other day. I was talking to my daughter, his mother, and we were debating this very question. My husband, he's not loving me the way that he should or whatever. And so I looked at my 7-year-old grandson and I said, hey, Noah, pick up my keys. I need you to go up to the grocery store. Drive Pop Daddy's car. Go up to the grocery store. Get me some almond milk and come back. And so everybody got quiet. And I said, Noah, I need you to go up to the store, take my car. And so my daughter looked at me and started laughing, and she knew where I was going. I said, see, as bad as I want Noah to go up there and get that milk, sometimes people aren't equipped to do what you want them to do. He's not equipped. He hasn't been taught. He hasn't been trained. He hasn't been coached on how to drive my car to the store and back. And so a lot of people in relationships want the other person to do something that they're not equipped to do. They've never been trained. They've never been taught. They've had a toxic background, but you don't take that into consideration. All you do is understand what your need is. I get that. You want a need to be met. I get that. But we must consider whether the thing that we desire from the person we desire it from, are they capable? Do they have the capacity to do what it is we want them to do? So I would start there.
Yeah.
I would have to. So that's why I say, we have to do a discovery session, and then I go deep.
Right.
I go really, really deep. And you understand this. Yeah. Then that's when I find out some things that are bigger than what she put in that post.
Yeah.
Deep.
For sure.
Yeah.
Great answer. Really great answer. So what are the different ways people can work with you? I know you have something called the Love Vault. Let's kind of, I mean, I'm sure there's people listening going, okay, so what's next? How do I kind of connect with Ken? Obviously you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you're on YouTube, so you're on TikTok.
And then I'm on MTV at 9:00 on Tuesday nights.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
what show is that?
There's a show called Unfaithful, Caught in the Act. It's second season. I'm the relationship coach on that TV show. So
awesome.
Watch the show. It's quite
Tuesday nights at 9.
Yeah, quite entertaining.
I'm going to check it out. Thanks for plugging that.
And if you want to, you can go to YouTube and look up the season 2 episodes. And I think I've been in all of them except 2. But yeah.
Is it a fun gig for you to kind of break it down on TV?
If they would let me break it down on TV.
You're limited on time. I get it.
Oh, are you limited?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're looking for like a 10-second soundbite.
So that was the toughest part for me.
Sure.
Understanding TV versus real life coaching.
Yeah, learning to talk in sound bites is a skill.
I'm talking sound bites. It's a skill. I got better at it. But the Love Vault. The Love Vault, what happened was people would come to me and want to do private coaching. Well, it's an investment to work with me, okay? Because I don't do individual sessions. I only do one individual session. That's a discovery call. So people had started seeing other people's results. And so I would even start doing group coaching, but I might have 40, 50 people in there, but I get hundreds of inboxes of people wanting me to help them. So I talked to my team, and so we came up with this app called the Love Vault. And the Love Vault is a way that I can coach people from around the world. It's $19.97 a month, but the stuff that they get in the Love Vault, they get this thing called the Relationship Academy. Now, that's a little bit more, but you get all kinds of trainings. You get to ask a coach. You get original content. You get everything. And I've got coaches like Dr. John in there who say you don't want to hear from Coach Ken, but you like Dr. John. So you can get classes from Dr. John, kind of like Mind Valley, but a little bit different, a little bit more interactive. And so that's what the Love Vault is, man, a way that I can reach more people and more coaches. There are some great therapists, coaches, thought leaders, experts out here. And I want to bring them to a place where not only that they can help people, but they can increase revenue, increase their brand, everything. So that's part of what it is. So I'm looking for new coaches, Dr. John, who want to be a part of it. We got a meeting on Thursday night if you want to come.
I'm in.
Right.
Anything you're doing, I think I'd probably want to be a part of. I believe in your style and your message. I have a bit of a spiritual background. I kind of have a sense that you do too. So
Yes.
I feel like there's a lot of alignment there.
I love it, man. I love it. So they can find me at Coach Ken Canion on every platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of them, YouTube. Um, and so and I guess the funny thing about it though is I look back a couple of years ago, right? I was coaching, and my team, I had a couple of young people that were working with me, and they said, Coach, you got to get out there on social media. And I always thought, social media, I use it to show my grandkids, me and my wife, but I never thought about it to reach people like that, because I thought it was a vanity metrics.
Mm-hmm.
But I changed. Remember we talked about
Yeah.
willingness to change? And I decided that if I was going to make an impact, there are people who don't know about me. There are people in the world that if I don't do my part, my mission, that they'll never get what I'm supposed to give them along this path. And so during COVID, we turned the camera on. April 4th, 2020, I had 82 YouTube subscribers, and I don't think I had any other subscribers anywhere else. Now I have 1.1 million people, and I say it's not about how many followers. It's about how much impact you can have.
Yeah.
And so
I
that's what
couldn't
I'm
agree
all
with you
about.
more.
That's what
That's
I'm
why.
all about.
Yeah. And you have some books out there, other ways to spread impact. So
Yeah, go to CoachKenCanyon.com and you can see my books. I've got 8 books out. I've sold hundreds of thousands of books, and I get to do this work, and so I'm proud about that, and proud to be on your show.
thank you so much, Coach Ken. That was amazing. CoachKenCanyon.com.
Yes.
You're at Coach Ken Canyon on all the different platforms. And you got to come back on. This was a lot of fun.
Man, I'd love to come back on and listen. Hey, y'all write in. Tell him to get on the Love Vault, because there are a lot of people out there that need what he has.
If you're interested in learning how to get the absolute most out of your romantic relationships, then you're in luck, because I have put together a free workshop or masterclass, if you will, about 3 secrets that people in happy relationships have discovered. You can view the workshop at mrspirituality.com/3 secrets. Again, it's completely free. Just go there and watch it. It'll help you on your journey, give you some wisdom, some things to think about. The website again is mrspirituality.com/3 secrets. That's mrspirituality.com/3, the word secrets. It's all yours. Enjoy.